Greetings, everybody. Welcome. Today it is Thursday, the 27th of February, 2025. It's just after 12 o'clock noon time in London. I hope whatever time it is in your part of the world that you're doing well. Welcome to this, the ISRM fifth monthly webinar as part of our Global Urban Resilience and Major City Management Program. I'm delighted to say the last four programs have gone really well. We're now beginning to develop the outputs from that. The recordings, the edited recordings are all available. We're now putting them out in printed version. We're transcribing the conversations, which are significant and insightful. I think that is what we look for, significant and insightful conversations. And the plan is that we gather those over the 12 months of this particular program, and we'll publish that as a book, as a sort of record of where we're at in terms of our thinking around various issues associated with global urban resilience. As I said, right now to date is probably the first really warm, sunny day of the year, which always makes your life feel better. And it feels when we have this first spring day that we are we've come through the cycle. We've got through the dark, the cold, the wet, the miserable. And there's a feeling of refreshing something, of newness, of the new cycle coming into play. And it brings with it an energy to it. And I hope that being part of these programs, which we genuinely appreciate everybody who's part of it in any way, who gives their support and their participation. But I hope that also brings a feeling to you in your personal and professional lives of renewal and refreshing and inspiration and empowerment. Because it is a tough world out there. There is no question about it. It is a tough world out there. And the challenges we are facing are non-stop and increasingly seemingly oppressive, and they seem to be just overwhelming and overstressing. And sometimes we can feel very isolated. We can feel that we are not connected, that we're on our own. Many of us fighting our own organizations. We have a clear vision of what we're trying to achieve. And we seem to be struggling with our own organizations, never mind the outside world. So I think to have an opportunity of being a community like this, which is a genuinely global community of people who are engaged and committed, I think brings value. So first of all, thank you to everybody for being part of that community. We genuinely appreciate it. What we're doing today is we have a conversation around the issues of the global city network. We've been looking at global urban resilience and major city management from various perspectives. But today I think we want to have a round the table chat around this idea, this concept of global city networks. Because what we are seeing is, just as within countries, or just within cities to a large extent, we're seeing a real polarization. We're seeing the communities that we're living amongst are being polarized, and increasingly numbers of people, significant parts of the population, are being marginalized, disempowered, dropped and forgotten, no longer considered as part of the main discourse. And it's almost as though, let's try and pretend those people aren't there while we carry on with our party. And I imagine that for many of us, although the world is a tough place, you know what? We're doing okay. We're sort of doing okay. It's all right. But of course, for a large part of the population, that is not true. But in much the same way, we see that cities are increasingly becoming disconnected in many ways from their hinterland, from the environments they're operating in. New Delhi in India, Lagos in Nigeria, Bangkok in Thailand, Cairo in Egypt. It can be seen as almost a universe, a self-contained universe in themselves. And for example, Bangkok has much more connections with Cape Town, or it does with Milan, or it does with Tokyo, or it does with London, in many ways, than it does with its own rural population of the country. And I think that is a tendency that is only going to increase because of globalization, because of technology, because of interconnectedness, etc., because of the fact that in all of those cities, there is a community of globalized people, travelers, many of them like ourselves. They're international. It doesn't matter to them which city they work in. They'll work in a city for 3 years, they'll move to another city. Their children go to international schools. Their children have the expectation that they will travel and go to various cities. And there's that strata, maybe that 20% of strata of people who are basically global citizens. I'm one of them. I'm sure many of you are as well. And I think that's interesting for the world we live in. So I'm looking forward very much to having a conversation around that. We only have two featured speakers today, which is Humam Abdulatif coming in from Dubai. And great to see you here, Humam. And thank you for your hospitality when I was with you guys. Much appreciate that, and very much looking forward to being back with you. We have Matt Hogan, who is Director of Partnerships at London Resilience, who I've worked with for many, many years on various projects. But particularly in 2012, we worked together on the London Resilience Project, which was basically, well, the London Resilience was already there, but my part was the London Resilience Gold Command Crisis Management Project, which basically said, how do we create a city that is crisis ready? Which is a great conversation. Matt puts together a lot of the programs around that. Matt, I'm sure you are as well. I'm dying to have another go at that. I keep talking about that everywhere I go because I really want to have another go at doing one of those. It was one of the best projects I ever worked with, and of course, after 3 years, pretty well got completely defunded. So that's what happens. But it was an absolutely brilliant program, and Matt, I've sort of appreciated your friendship and your support since then as well. So it's good to have you here as well. But what we're going to do is, I can see we absolutely have a global community here. So we are going to really encourage everybody to get involved. That's the key. I'm just going to mute you down. So I would very, very much encourage everybody to participate in the conversation, to have your voice heard and record it. This is a recorded program. We feel that it is a valuable resource and a reflection of where we are in 2025. The changes we are going through are radical. They are critical. We are living in a world that is unstable, that is chaotic. And we put together some reports in 2020 at the beginning of COVID, some very detailed reports, which are now a valuable resource because we look back at people talking about 2020, about what they experienced and why they made decisions. And the truth is, they are lying. They're just lying. They're telling things which are not true. And we know that because we have a record of the conversations we're having at the time. I think looking back historically, these years, the Trump years, the chaotic years, the climate change years, will be seen as pivotal years in human development. And I think that what we are doing here at the ISRM, with your help and the support of this community, has value. Right, that's enough from me. What we'll do, Human, let's just come in and just introduce yourselves and tell us a bit about what you're involved in and some of the things that you think are worth talking about. Matt will bring you in, and then really we'll just see where the conversation flows from there, and we'll bring everybody in after that, okay? Again, to everybody, please do feel free to open up your cameras just while we're talking. It's really great to have that feeling of community there rather than a blank screen. We really want to have that feeling there, so I would really appreciate that. But in the meantime, over to you, sir.